stay alive.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Tommi Vincent of In Her Words, a Tommi Vincent podcast. And today I have joining me at the table the lovely Cynthia Zordich. Cynthia is the founder of NFL Thread, a private platform for women of the NFL. She is the editor of The Playbook, an off-season playbook for NFL families, and she also is an author. Cynthia, welcome to the table. I am looking forward to having you stay a while with me as we have a wonderful conversation.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to this because I knew it would feel like this. I knew it would be so calm and relaxing of a conversation. So thank you.
Absolutely. So my very first question for you is, I want to find out from you, who is Cynthia Zordage? We want to hear it in your words.
I get funny talking about myself. I'm really a behind the scenes person, but I think that I am a person that cares so much about what other people are about, who they are, like really getting to know people. And all of the friends and people in my life have been in my life all of my life because I gather them and I keep them. So I am really just about that human experience of engaging with people that matter and making it last forever.
And you said something that is one of the reasons I wanted to get you to this table. You said that you're normally behind the scenes. And I have witnessed over the past several years you doing exactly that, making sure that you're creating space for other people, other families, other women in the NFL, creating space for us, because I have been a beneficiary of this space, to share my story, to share my experience, and to be able to glean from all of the other bought sense from everyone else that you have given your platform to. And so I wanted to make sure that you have an opportunity to have space so that we can get to know Cynthia Zordich, because you, while you're behind the scenes, you're moving in a very mighty way, very intentional way, and it has been making a tremendous impact on many families across the NFL current and NFL legend families. And so let me just say this. Thank you. I really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you. You don't know, that means so much to me because that's what gives me most pleasure is when I get feedback from people that say a story about a former player or a former spouse meant something, did something, helped them in some way. And I have felt for a long time, early even on when Michael was playing, that, you know, we're the gatekeepers. We're the ones who have been there already. So why are we just moving forward and not looking back and helping the people that are there now to like learn from us and to, you know us too for the rest of their lives. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get into the first segment of our conversation. And I know that food means a great deal to your family as well. I know that you helped your son put together his cookbook of some of your family's, I call them heirlooms, the heirlooms from your family's different recipes that you all have. And so this segment here is our, it's Food is Love. So I want to know from you, what food best describes your personality and why?
This is fun to think of this. And I feel like I came up with a good one because I feel that homemade bread would best describe me because the ingredients are very simple and basic, but every single time it's a little bit different. You know, there's all these different twists to it. And also it's something that you have, but it's on the side, or it's possibly holding amazing things together. but it's important. Like, you don't realize that it's not there until it's missing. So I'm like, I think I'm homemade bread.
Okay. All right. I love bread. Um actually I love bread.
Right. Me too.
Has food ever been healing for you?
Um, it, Always, food brings
Mhm.
us together. And in my family, that cookbook alone, doing that cookbook with my son Alex, it was important to him to tell the stories behind why do we do the things that we do at Christmas and Easter. And in doing that, it told the story and the traditions of our family. But so, yeah, all the time when we're together and having a recipe, you get kind of emotional because you remember who it was that started it first. Grandma Butchie at the counter doing the fish at Christmas. And now she's doing it with her husband. And now she's doing it with her grandchildren. And then she's doing it with different people every year, but the ritual continues. So yeah, always at the holidays, it's very for me emotional and healing because it brings me back to my roots.
Mhm. Does your family have an heirloom recipe passed down from generations?
Well, I have to say that there's these awesome sandwiches that my father made. And we call them Jimmy Rob sandwiches because his name, Jimmy Robinson. When he was about 14 years old and working in East Liberty with all the guys, running errands for everybody back in that time, they would make these sandwiches and they're just pressed with prosciutto, cabagol, salami, sharp provolone, basil, onions, and you press it and you wrap it like really strong and tight. And they weren't allowed to eat them until the day after. That's when they were allowed to have the sandwiches. All the oils kind of come together. So when I make the sandwiches, I think of my dad, and what I love most is I'm always asked to make the sandwiches at events, and my favorite is you'll see the kids walking with one in their back pocket or one in their front pocket, and they're always stealing them. So, and it's kind of like his legacy lives on through these little sandwiches.
That's awesome.
Mm,
I say that cooking is the gift that keeps on giving. And it's an opportunity for us to continue the stories of our family via the food that we place on our tables.
right.
And so I love that story. I love the tradition. And I love that it's something that for generations, it's something that can continue forward. And so your father's love will forever be on the table as long as that recipe keeps moving forward. And for generations, people could feel his loving arms wrapping around them
Right.
every time they take a bite of those sandwiches.
Absolutely.
So we'll move into segment 2. And in this segment, this is where we're going to go deeper into you and really get to know you in a greater way. And so I want to encourage you just to, when I ask you the questions, you take the question and you answer it how you choose. And the first question I have for you, and you mentioned that your husband, Michael Zordage, that he's an NFL legend. And so you all came into the NFL. I want to know from you, how old were you when you became a part of the NFL family? That's the first part of the question. And then the second part of the question is, you come from a family that had some traditions that were established. Did you feel a weight of any kind of what your family structure, how you moved as a wife, how you moved as a mom, how you moved as a woman, what that had to look like in order for it being done the right way?
So first, I was 23 when Michael had signed with the Jets. Um, he had first gone to the Chargers, and then through that first camp was released the final cut. And so he sat out the first year. And that was an interesting year for us because he was dealing with the fact that he felt that his dreams were like broken and over. And I was pretty much, I think, positioning myself to be there for him, but he needed space. So it was very confusing, and I think it was very important in our relationship. I think he got to see that I was there for him as a person and as somebody who loved him. I loved him so much, it was crazy. So I didn't care where he was as long as he was close enough to be with me. But then when he went to the Jets, it was like, oh, okay, this is happening. And so to be honest with you, I felt like this is probably where I could lose him, like where he would be gone. You know, I was like, oh, I'm not that person. I'm not that NFL woman. I'm not that NFL wife. And he's going to New York City, and I am probably never going to see him again. This is probably the end of this fun college romance. So it was a little bit frightening during that time because we weren't even engaged. We were just dating. And so when it became that we were engaged, it still was a little crazy for us and trying to figure everything out. But I believe that once we had made that commitment and it was all about the fun and the party and the wedding, and then things settled, I have to say that it wasn't until we had our son Michael that we became, wow, we are what we are, and we became the parents and the family and the husband and the wife. Everything before that was a little bit chaotic for us, and
So did you said that there was that point in your relationship when you were dating and you questioned, like, am I the woman for this? Am I the woman that when he's away that I would fit this? In your mind, how did you perceive an NFL wife? Like, what did you have a preconceived notion of what that looked like or how you were supposed to be in order to meet the criteria?
Right. And that's why I share that, because I feel like there's so many young women coming in that felt the way I did. But, they were all like you, they were all beautiful and they're all tall and glamorous and confident, and they just fit that perfect next to. Now, did I look like that? I don't know. But when you don't see yourself like that, you can't help it. Somebody might have been looking at me like that, but I just know that I felt a little bit overwhelmed and a lot insecure. And the media and people, I think, have an image of what the NFL wife looks like, and I just didn't feel like I fit that bill. And I wasn't confident and strong enough in myself to know who I was, so I was just basing it on having to fit into this perception.
Yeah, and I'll chime in there and share my experience. I was 19 when Troy and I got married, and so my husband Troy, he played in the NFL for 15 years, and I didn't know, what does being a wife look like, right? That in itself for me was, I had my mom and I had my mother and father's relationship to look at. However, the scenario was very different. And so for me, I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't have a perception in my mind of what it looked like to be the wife of a professional athlete. I didn't have a perception in my mind of even what it looked like to be a wife. I was 19. Right. I was not thinking about being a wife. I knew how to have fun. I knew how to party. Like, I had all that stuff. I was a professional doing all those things. And I just was winging it, quite frankly, just figuring things out. And I think because Troy was in Miami at the time, there were a couple of women that I started engaging with, but I wasn't like on the scene. So I didn't have pressure to feel like I needed to look like or be like someone else. It was really almost like I was in this space, where I was isolated. And and not isolated in a bad way, because even still to this day, I kind of just do my thing quietly in my own space. And so I don't feel pressure to be like someone else. But I also know it's really important to know who you are so that you're being authentic to yourself. Back then at 19,
Right.
Tommi did not know who Tommi was.
Right.
And so I literally morphed into what I thought would be pleasing to Troy. And there was a lot of outside noise from, say, family members who thought you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And so I'm like, oh, like just trying to fit all these spaces and places that people were directing me to and how I should be. And I will say that really started my journey of exploration of who is Tommi Vincent for real. Like, who's the real Tommi Vincent? Can she please stand up? That's where I was in my life.
Right.
Yeah. What about your experience compelled you to form the private network of NFL Thread for women traveling down similar pathways?
Well, it's incredible, like how Thread came about, and Troy had a lot to do with it, which, I really I just appreciate him because his heart's always open, his ears are always open. And I remember I had contacted Troy when my son Michael was going to Carolina as a rookie, and he came back home to visit, and I was cleaning out his truck, and in the back of the truck was the Q5 really awesome brochure, just everything Michael needed to know to get started as a rookie. And I'm like, Michael, did you see this? And he's like, no, I didn't see it. And I was like, Michael, this is like valuable information. There's so much you can do here. And I remember calling Troy and being like, Troy, this is such great information, and I just feel like if I would have gotten a copy of this too, like if the moms and the spouses, if we could tell these guys what's happening, it would be so much better than relying on them to take part in any of these amazing programs that you're doing, because I'm so proud of everything that the NFL is doing for current players and former players, and as they navigate their journey from the first snap to the retirement. So he was just really open to that. And he's like, we're actually doing something really great here with the women's initiative, and I want you to be a part of it. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And so it was so fun for me because I started writing for the initiative and writing all about women in the NFL, power couples in the NFL, different things people were doing outside of the game. And that led for Troy introducing me to Erica Lassiter. He's like, you have to meet Erica Lassiter. She reminds me of you. And then I met Erica, and now here I am. I'm like so involved with Off the Field. I'm actually the vice president of Off the Field, which is so awesome. And I just love it. Yeah, I just love it. So what happened was I saw a need. So I know what the resources are, and I'm writing, but now the women are not getting the information. And where are the women? That seems to be the most difficult thing to figure out because we move so often. So that's when I just worked hard to come up with an idea, and I came up with the platform NFL Thread. It's a private platform that is run completely secure and safe, and it is free because really what it is about is it's like LinkedIn. It's where are you? What are you doing? Maybe you're somebody I want to know. Maybe you're somebody I can connect with. Or my friend just moved there, and maybe she's somebody you should know. Along with that, it's a great liaison between the NFL and all the the news, the information, the newsletters, the resources, the boot camps, workshops. Well, how do we find out about that? So I feel like with Thread, I can promote everything, everybody. It's non-competitive. If this group is doing one thing, if Off the Field's doing one thing, if the women of the NFL are doing something else, if we have the, professional football players' mothers, or if PIFMA doing something, we're all doing something. Let's promote everybody, and let's let everybody get their information out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you know what? There's information is information, and with all of the different platforms that have been put in place for the benefit of the players and their families, the more avenues of disseminating that information, the greater likelihood it is that the information will be received.
Right.
And so I value all of those platforms and what they're doing. You did bring up Off the Field, and you currently are the vice president of that organization. And so can you just share what is Off the Field? Because someone listening, may hear that and they don't know exactly what Off the Field is. So can you share what that is?
Oh, yes, with pleasure. We have had a lot of conversations about that recently, and what we came up with was that we are service. We are absolutely about servicing others, servicing the NFL community, servicing the communities that we impact. So Off the Field, we are known for the fashion show, and it is so much fun every year at the Super Bowl. And I was just telling a young girl yesterday, Carly Teller was on our podcast, where I'm like, go to the Super Bowl, never miss the Super Bowl, because it is the number one networking place for women in the league, and the Super Bowl is so much fun. So, but we're not just the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is just a way to impact the communities. For instance, last year we went into Los Angeles, and we had our own Holly Robinson Peete with her most amazing foundation, the Holly Rod Foundation. So we were able to contribute $75,000 to Holly's foundation through our efforts with the fashion show. And that's for Parkinson's and autism. And for us, that is like, we left LA, we left our mark as NFL women. We weren't at the malls, we weren't at the boutiques, we were there, but we were making a difference and impacting them and generating information and funds for important causes. And that's why I love Off the Field. We were also honoring some extraordinary women, and we do that every year. We go into the city and we'll find extraordinary women to honor. So Off the Field is a way to service your communities, all NFL team communities. And it's also a sisterhood. Like, we also do things together and support each other. And being on the board, it's almost a full-time job. We are, every month getting together, and then our subcommittees are getting together, because we start on the Super Bowl the year before the Super Bowl starts. And we just are busy, but we are so proud, and it makes me proud to be an NFL woman. It makes me proud to be involved in it. And this is October Rush, actually, so I always encourage all women in the NFL to join, Off the Field.
So I am a member of Off the Field.
Yes, you are.
And to your point, it is a sisterhood. And I remember when the very first meeting, this is when Troy was a team rep, and we were over in Hawaii. And at the time, Gene Upshaw, he was living, and the founders of Off the Field, they had a meeting, and we were all in the room. I'm not a founder of the organization, but I was one of the wives that was present in Hawaii. And so they had a meeting there, and they, were sharing with Gene Upshaw about why this organization was so important, and the need to make sure that it has the resources necessary to keep information available to wives and significant others. And so I just remember the inception of it all, with the hard work that went into it, and to see that throughout the years, and this is really speaks to even, what you're doing with NFL Thread. It takes time, it takes effort in order for these things to not only just manifest, because it can manifest one way, and then as it evolves, as it grows, that doesn't happen without the visionary or visionaries, really investing their time. And so NFL Thread has become what it's become today, an amazing resource for women of the NFL as a result of what you've invested in it. And so that's in itself is a lesson for other women in this NFL family, and just women in general, that anything that you want to accomplish, anything that you would like to do, don't despise the small beginning. Because just like any seed, when you sow it, it looks like this, but then it has the power. You put an acorn in the ground, it has the power in the potential of becoming the oak tree.
Right.
And so it's been a joy watching your journey. I'll just say that.
Thank you. And I do appreciate that, because that one thing that when you do something is always the fear that, well, what are you? What are you doing? And I feel like if you believe in what it is that your intentions are, and you're true to those intentions, then I think it starts to become clear to others. You know, for me, I was very clear that I want to promote others. I don't want to do what you do. I want to tell people what you're doing. I want to help you. And of course, my relationship with Off the Field is Thread is an excellent way to promote what we're doing at Off the Field. Let me help us grow. You know, let's hit the women that don't know about us already. And I feel like that with anybody that's doing anything. If you are going to write a book and somebody says, oh, somebody's writing a book like that already, it's never going to be your book. It is never going to be your project. Never let that somebody's doing something similar stop you from what you're doing, because somehow it will work together if you have good intentions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hindsight, if there was something you could have done differently to navigate your season of life when you were Mike was actively playing, what would it be?
What would I have done? Well, I love the mistakes. You know, I love that I tripped up. You know, I love that I was mad at Michael because he was so happy and so settled and knew exactly what he was doing, and I felt completely angry at him for being happy. And I love that he called me out on it. I love that he said, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I'm not responsible for your happiness. You need to figure yourself out. And so I would never take that back, because it was the worst thing that I did. Was I wasn't doing anything for myself, and I was waiting for him to solve my own problems that I was creating. So I wouldn't say that I would do it differently, but I love the fact that I had to find out who I was, and I had to discover how I can contribute in this world and feel good about it. So that when Michael was signing an autograph, I wasn't resentful. I was excited for him, because maybe I wasn't signing autographs, but I was doing something that made me feel like I was just contributing, you know, just there, just alive. So I think when Michael did that to me, it was a real shove. And that's when I discovered photography. And that's when I started shooting. And then this is crazy, Tommy. I have to tell you this crazy story. I started shooting, and this is wild. When I was in Arizona, I went to school, and I was pregnant, but I went to photography classes, and I met some great people, and all the cardinals would let me photograph them with their kids so that I could use for my assignments. So I was at a mass. We lost one of my son's dearest friends, Mark Pellini, in a car accident. He was a Nebraska Cornhusker, and he was a beautiful person. And the Nebraska team came to the funeral, and all of my sons, they were high school friends, high school teammates, they were there. So one of the moms said, Cindy's just come and sit with us. And I sat down next to this kid, but he's a man, and he was talking to everybody. He knew everybody. He had played in Nebraska with Mark Pellini. So we're like, well, where do you live now? And so Alex says, I live in Arizona. And I said, really? And I said, one of the boys said, Cindy, you lived in Arizona, when Mr. Z played. I go, yeah. And he said, where did you live? I'm like, right in Ahwatukee in the foothills. And he said, that's where my mom lives, and she has a dance studio there. I'm like, Alex Lewis, I photographed you when you were a baby.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I took photos of Bill and Alex and Taylor and Kimberly when I was learning my photography. And those photographs are like so special to me. And it was a full circle moment, but it made me feel so good. It just was a crazy situation, but it made me feel proud, and it made me feel really good. And, we're going to continue his relationship. In fact, I'm going to interview him for the playbook. So it's a really neat kind of thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And that is like, but that's this world. Like we're living in a huge world, right? But when you become a part of a family, part of a community, so you go from high school football to college football to the professional football, and obviously everybody doesn't get to go to every stage of it, but we've been a part of every stage of it.
Right.
You meet people either that have had a direct connection to you, or they're connected through your kids, or they're connected through another friend. Like, it really is a community, and there's so many resources, so many ways that we can contribute to where we are today, that story just speaks to that, like the power of the community that we are a part of.
Yes, absolutely. It's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you look at the rosters and you look to see who is on the practice squad. You look to see who's on the coaching staff to see if you know anybody so they can check in on them because you know their mother or you know their... Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Because now Mike is coaching in college right now.
Right.
Okay. So like you're built, so like now that's a whole nother community you're building.
Absolutely. It's so true. And that's what I always say, never leave, because, we were talking about that yesterday, the group me messages, how you just all of a sudden somebody has to take you off the group me messages from this, from the staff, and the player list. And you hate to see that happen and you hate to see go. And we were laughing because I was saying that at Michigan, I refused to take myself off. And then I put all the girls in a position that they were like, somebody has to take Cindy off the group me. So I think they started a whole new group me because it never went away. So I think they just said, okay, let's just start a whole new group me without Cindy.
They're like, we gotta protect Cindy.
I'm like, I'm not doing it. I just told them to. I'm not doing it. But, and it's great being on these staffs and these women. And you're right. There's the circle, which is small, and then there's the other circle, and then there's a new circle. So I'm just kind of like, wow, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned I have watched you for many years build your platform very intentionally to serve and benefit the community, the NFL community specifically. And sometimes that love is not always reciprocal. You're putting information together, you're putting in this hard work, and I'm just using a number. And 3 people are like, yes, I want that information, while the other 200 are like, no, I don't want it. So you're doing this work and you're putting it in. How did you maintain your commitment to your vision to keep going, even if it was for an audience of 1?
That's great. I feel that you create something. Like I'll use the Playbook as an example, because the Playbook is a magazine, and magazines, it's big. I made it so big that you wanted to keep it. It's a coffee table magazine. I made it after Life magazine, hoping that people would save it and there would be something they would look back on later. So yeah, the first time the Playbook came out, you're waiting for something to happen in the world. You feel like there's going to be some kind of reaction. And then you realize there isn't. There is no reaction. But there is in here, And then for the people that I wrote the stories about, can I get another copy for my son? Can I get a copy for this? Because a magazine puts your story in print and it's forever. I don't care. It is. It's there. It's real. It really happened. And so for the people that I write the stories about and the people that receive the stories, that for me is enough, that I have a part of history. I have taken somebody's efforts, because if you're in the Playbook, you've done something. And something that I'm proud of, and something that I want to tell the world about, because everybody knows things about players, but not everybody knows what they're doing off the field, outside of the game, how they think, how they grew up, what motivates them. They don't know these things, but we get that out of them with the Playbook. So for me, I feel like maybe they're not getting it right now, but maybe in the future they'll come across one of these articles, or they'll come across this magazine, and they'll learn from that person's story. And stories, they continue and they give and they keep giving even when you might not even realize it.
Mm-hmm. So what's next for NFL Thread, for any of your endeavors? Because you do many things. Like, what's next when you think about the work that you're doing, the season of life that you're in?
Mm-hmm.
Are you still ramping up because there's other things you want to accomplish in those endeavors? Or are you at a point in your life where you're doing some pivots?
Oh, that's good. Oh, pivot is a good place to start. In that one of our babysitters from Philadelphia that used to babysit the kids during the games, Juliette Hahn, her mother was my kid's kindergarten teacher, and she had a podcast and invited me on. And I was like, sure, I'll come on the podcast. From there, a day later, somebody asked me, Cindy, did you ever think about getting a podcast because you have the playbook? And I said, that's so funny. I just did one. Let me call Juliette. So Juliette has thrown me into this world, and she is so fun because she's curious about the NFL families. And she calls herself a layman. I always laugh at her. I'm like, she's like, we need to find a new name for me. And I'm like, I agree. But she has such good questions because I'm like, oh, I would never ask that because, of course, that's just normal for us that we would do that. So we've been doing the podcast, which is really fun. To answer your question, between Pivot, the podcast, which I would like to see Juliette become the next Diane Sawyer. I just love this child. I just think she's so giving. So for me, I'm doing a lot of this to get her going, and I just love it. I love the conversations with the women. The playbook, I want to continue doing that. And NFL Thread, I want that to continue to grow. In the future, I would love to see somebody take over NFL Thread and just carry it on. And in the future, I would love to see Juliette on the networks. And then I would like to be like that grandmother that is, grandma's busy 6 months of the year doing the playbook, but after that, she can play. That's my goal.
I love it. I love it. What words of wisdom would you have shared with rookie Cynthia Zordage coming into the NFL?
I would have said, what are you doing? You know who you are. Walk into that room with your head up and let people meet you and quit being so insecure. What is wrong with you? And I just feel like that's what I would say to her.
Okay, so we're down to the final segment, and there's this segment is I'm bringing her to the table with me. So this is all about you in this moment in our conversation, bringing another woman to the conversation and giving her flowers via your words as a result of her making a contribution to your journey in some way, shape, or form that as a result of the fingerprint that she put on your life, that you are who you are and where you are today as a result.
See, now you're going to make me cry. My sister, she's only 15 months older than me, but she thinks she raised me, and she's always in the corner, supporting me and, just that strength, she's just always that one to circle in, and I adore her, and she's all I have, she's my sister. And, between my sister and my mother and my Aunt Kathleen, that's how I was raised. And my dad just watched us from a distance. But Tina is extraordinary in that I know that she's there for me, and the idea of her ever not being in my life. So yes, flowers for my sister and love for my sister, and a lot of thanks to my sister for being that guiding, loyal force in my life.
That is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Listen, I am so grateful that you were able to take out time in your life to join me at the In Her Words table, and that you stayed a while with me. I want to know if you could share with everyone, you mentioned your podcast Pivot that you have with Juliette Hahn, if you could share where people can listen to that, as well as how can people follow along with your journey, where they can find you at.
Beautiful. It's really simple. Actually, everything is on nflthread.com. You can find the playbook, the podcast, and the platform, all information. We're having our Super Bowl luncheon on the Thursday before the Super Bowl again this year. So there's information about that. And the other question, what was the other one as far as...
If you have any other ways that if you want people to follow a social media account.
Yes, exactly. And then NFL Thread on Instagram is easiest as well. So very simple.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, there are all the ways that you can stay in contact and see what Cynthia Zordich has going on. As you can see, she has a lot of things that are enriching to women, that are enriching to the NFL community, the NFL family. And so I encourage you to follow along so that you can be in the know of what is taking place. Cynthia, thank you so much for joining me. I'm grateful and honored to have you at the In Her Words table.
Thank you. I appreciate this time with you. Come on and say a while.